turning our attention to hurling. Sarah O'Donovan, good morning to you. How are you?
I'm great. Revel County's looking great. Big World Cup day tomorrow.
Jersey on as well. Love this.
Yeah. What is the jersey?
2002 under-19 championships. So Sue Ronan, who you'll have on later, gave me the nod that year. I haven't worn it since. These are Excel lads. These are massive. I can't believe they let us run around in these. They're ridiculous.
I did not know you were an Ireland underage international.
Yeah, briefly 3 caps. Yeah, from Sue. So there you go.
Another sickening, multi-talented.
I've no ACL left, lads. Just remember, you can overdo these things.
Well, I was gonna, if I was to tap you on the shoulder as a 16-year-old and go, it's going to cost you your ACL, but this is going to be your career, you'd have been like, yeah, absolutely.
Here you go.
A quick word on Vicky Wallace. It looks like she's going to be joining the Ireland Sevens. Somebody in our comments is making the point that the current Ireland Sevens captain won an All-Ireland with Wicklow. So it can be done. I just want to get this fact correct. I've lost the current captain of the Sevens, according to Andy Connolly, has an All-Ireland medal with Wicklow and was poached after that, so it's definitely doable. It would be a remarkable story for like the totemic figure of the Meath team that came up from intermediate to senior to then go to Australia to then ultimately end up, if she makes it to Paris for the Olympics. That's one of the all-time great Irish sports careers.
I have to agree with you. She is a generational talent, and I suppose Louise Galvin from Kerry, was in with the rugby sevens for a long time before she went back to Kerry this season, or last season, I think. Certainly, it's a massive opportunity, and I think one Vicky will deliver on. I won't be surprised if she makes that final team.
Let's talk hurling. You've picked 15s that you expect to start, or would they be the 15s that you would start?
Both.
Right. So we'll start with Limerick, right? It's Nicky Quaid, it's Mike Casey, Dan Morrissey, Barry Nash, it's Diarmuid Burns, it's Will O'Donoghue and Kyle Hayes. So people will notice that there's no Declan Hannon starting there. Dara Donovan, Keane Lynch in midfield, Gerard Hegarty, David Reedy, Tom Morrissey, Seamus Flanagan, Aaron Gillan and Peter Casey. You don't think Hannon's going to start?
No, and if we were listening carefully to Aisling O'Reilly's interview with John Kiley, he may have given away the fourth secret of Fatima. It sounded like Will O'Donoghue was going to be the better for his performance against Galway, and will be at 6 on Sunday.
This is important, right? This because they won and because they always win and they always find a way. We sometimes underestimate the impact of individuals. Like last year, things wouldn't have been as close if the full Keane Lynch experience had been there in the final. But Kilkenny really rattled them and had them going the whole way. Taking Declan Hannon out in those final few moments when Kilkenny get their purple patch, it does matter.
I think Kilkenny have a chance here, lads, a big chance, and they're a better team than last year. Certainly, I know they lost to Wexford on the 28th of May, which seems a bit mad because Wexford are now looking for a new manager, and that's the madness of hurling. But what Derek Ling has done with them in the last 2.5 months, to undo Clare and to do it so well, 20 different players on the pitch, never let up. Interestingly, Seamus Hickey said last week that the physicality that you're looking for with teams is, how close can you get to the action? How close can you get to the player on the ball? And Kilkenny against Clare, it was constantly hooks, blocks, aggression, physicality. That team is completely different to the team that played last year in the final, I would say. And it's completely different to the team that played Limerick in the league. And when I was down in Páirc Uí Chaoimh, that game doesn't even exist in the realms of this year's championship.
So you have Kilkenny unchanged from the semi-final if everybody is fit and available, essentially?
That game was practically pitch perfect for Kilkenny. There would be no player that you would take out of that 15 in terms of their work rate, in terms of what they achieved against Clare.
So why are they a different team? Explain that to us.
In terms of their distribution of the ball and their use of the ball and their mixing up of short and long play, they're not direct anymore. They have options. They have a running game. And then you have 5 players coming into the setup in the last 20 minutes. Walter Walsh, Cian Kenny, Padraig Walsh, Richie Hogan, who was the last? Killian Buckley, who gets the goal against Galway. Those 5 players to come in the last 20 minutes against Clare and really settle Clare. By comparison, Clare only brought in 3 subs and brought on Aaron Shanahan in the 71st minute. I think Derek Ling knows this team inside out and is getting every last inch out of them.
The evolution from last season, it's impossible for us not to compare and contrast the Cody era and the Cody style, but it does feel like Derek Ling has taken that as a foundation and built on it, as opposed to ripping up the playbook, or it's not. It always feels like it's an implied criticism of Cody that his team didn't do what Derek Ling's team is doing. But maybe you've got to go through that process to get to a point where everybody has buy-in, everybody believes that they can take a bit more out of the ball, everybody understands that they have what they need to do in their locker and in their skill set. And then also, lads, you're not going to beat Limerick doing what you did last year.
Yeah, I felt they were a little too direct last year. They didn't score enough last year. I think they scored 217, but that still wasn't enough. From the point of view of, I suppose, the injuries that Kilkenny had in the lead up to this, they've kind of hit form at the right time. You know, Adrian Mullen's back, Richie Reid is back. I was really impressed with Hugh Lawler at full back. Owen Murphy is titanic inside and goal. Derek has hit a sweet spot with this Kilkenny team, and even Richie Hogan sitting behind him in the Davin stand the last day. Like, he annoyed Clare so much in those 10 minutes that he was on. They couldn't leave him alone. You know, that's the kind of, I suppose, what we're looking for from Kilkenny is options and a bit of spontaneity, and Derek has that in spades with them.
There's been so much talk about how to mark Aaron Gillan, Sarah, whether you get in front of him, you stay behind him. You can't really, yeah. It's probably the David Clifford conversation all over again. But will Kilkenny be obsessing over that, or are they more so as Ling, just a focus on ourselves type?
So I think here and with this group, Ronan O'Gara talks about themes and narratives, and you know, with La Rochelle he talked about focusing on the bigger picture, and you know, having somebody come in and build a theme for the players to gravitate towards, as opposed to just focusing on Leinster, the team. And I think for this group, for Kilkenny, it'll be more about stopping that legacy, that 4 in a row chasing Limerick team. That great Kilkenny team from 2006-2009 did something incredible, and you know, I suppose no team has done it since the 40s, so they're the standout team. For Ling and for Kilkenny, I think it's not so much about stopping Aaron Gillan, it's about a team for performance and focusing on motivating the players to focus on that big team performance that stops Limerick from getting a 4 in a row. The All-Ireland medal will be amazing, but I think for them right now, they have to focus on something else.
Well, it's a really good point, and I kind of hadn't thought about it that much in the build-up to this, but like, this Kilkenny team has the potential to become one of the favourite Kilkenny teams of all time. If you stop the 4 in a row, you're like, well, all those debates about who would be in the starting 15 between the Limerick team and the Kilkenny team. Well, now all of a sudden it's like, well, sorry, did you do a 4 in a row? No, you didn't. This stuff matters. And look, these are counties that have won. In Kilkenny, where they've always won and they've always hoovered up All Ireland like dust. That's an inspiration that I as a Kildare person have no access to. You from Cork definitely have access to it.
Not since the 1940s, actually. Cork done such a thing.
But imagine if there was a Cork team that comes next year and stops the Limerick 5 in a row. They would then be considered one of the all-time great Cork teams just for being the spoilers of that party.
And that's enough. That's enough for those Kilkenny lads. Standing on the shoulders of giants. You can imagine if they stopped that on Sunday and you've Tommy Walsh coming down, JJ Delaney, the joy that those Kilkenny lads would have as a unit. It wouldn't be just the 30 lads, it'd be the 100 lads that came before them.
And all of a sudden you walk into a room with those lads and they have 9 All-Irelands, but you're like, yeah, well, we're just as good as you now because we stopped those lads being your equals. There's there's a bond, and there's a little bit of bragging rights.
Full narrative.
That's the team. That's the narrative. That's the theme. I'm heading to Ballybrown on Friday night, lads, with future All-Star Adam Screeney and Johnny Pilkington, and that Offaly story still lives to this day. So it's like that. It's finding moments, winning individual games. That means so much to individual counties.
And that's the thing, right? Because from the Limerick perspective, they do have individuals who could grip the game and win it on their own, and so Kilkenny needs really to make sure that supply lines are stopped. That's why the forward effort on the ball, that's why everybody being alert when the puck out is happening or when the ball's going wide and trickling wide. There's not we've got like a split second here to relax, because all of a sudden Quaid has the ball and it's out to Hegarty and it's in the back of the net, and you're like, oh, we switched off for a split second and it's game over.
Yeah, I think from that point of view, that's why I've put Garrod Hegarty back at 10. I think he needs to be the outball for Quaid, and that he needs to be very sharp on that. From Kilkenny's point of view, Billy Ryan, they suggested last week, didn't go as well against Clare as he would have liked, but his work rate was incredible, and that's the kind of work rate that you're going to need to stop the likes of Barry Nash coming out with the ball, the likes of Mike Casey coming out with the ball. You saw what Kilkenny were able to do to Clare because they had the spare man, with Richie Reid being the spare man in that first half, and how they were able to do really good restarts and find space and pick out pockets. There's going to be no spare man the next day. It's going to be man on man, and every player is going to be touch tight, as physical as they can. It's going to be a rip-roaring contest.
How important is it, Sarah, that Kilkenny don't rush into decision making? Because after the final last year, I think Limerick get the first goal in 2 points. Hegarty obviously gets the goal and ends up being unbelievable throughout. But Shefflin in that semi-final certainly seemed to panic when Limerick got a couple of scores. He changed from the 2 up in the inside forward line and reverted back to 1. And some people felt that was maybe the turning of that semi-final. So sometimes, I guess, when you're playing Limerick, you just can't panic when things are going against you.
Yeah, I think Kilkenny having to go 2 behind against Clare and the momentum shifting to Clare in that semi-final is the perfect example of them not panicking, or them being 2 points down against Galway in the Leinster final and not panicking. They're just workhorses. It's next ball, next ball, next ball. They've been in so many situations this season where they could have lost and should have lost, and they haven't. They're primed for this.
And there's no real fear factor. Like Derek Ling kind of referenced that this week in some of his media bits. Like Limerick this year, I guess, before the semi-final, I don't think they'd won a game by more than 2 points. So the fear factor that was there maybe 2-3 years ago isn't quite at the same level.
I'd agree. I think that this Limerick team, because of the exposure that they had in that first 25 minutes against Galway, it's probably chipped another bit of I suppose enamel off of the chariot that was so strong. There's so much about Limerick to love, but we've seen weaknesses right through this championship. Tipperary caused them hassle, Cork caused them hassle, Clare caused them hassle, much more hassle than we've seen in previous seasons. So if I was Kilkenny right now, as Paul Murphy said in the hurling pod, you're going up there thinking, I can win this. And Kilkenny are going up there thinking, yeah, we have a chance, we have a massive chance here.
The opposite side of that, of course, is that Limerick have been battle hardened the whole way through in a way that maybe in previous years they haven't, and so they're going to feel pretty confident about their ability to think their way through whatever difficulties they have in the match. And they haven't so far been overawed by any of the history they've been creating. In many ways, it's actually inspired them. So I know we're all really keen to talk ourselves into thinking how close this is going to be, but there is also a possibility that we're waiting for that signature performance from Limerick this year, and it might also be coming.
Saving the best till last, perhaps. It would be a fitting end for that group if they do manage to do the 4 in a row. They do deserve to do the 4 in a row in terms of what they've given to the game over the last 4 years and how they've revolutionised it. But isn't that the whole thing with Kilkenny? They spoil all the parties. So from Limerick's point of view, they will be process driven. I think they'll have learned a lot from the Galway game. I've picked Keane Lynch at midfield because I think he will be key there. He was playing very deep in the first half, and when I say very deep, he was very close to the Galway goal in that first half against them. I think he needs to be closer to the Limerick goal to support Will O'Donoghue if Will O'Donoghue's playing at 6, and he did that so well in the second half. I think that's the reason why Galway were beaten.
The Kilkenny strength and depth, I'm just looking at the bench that the lads they took off the bench in last year's final against Limerick. So Fogarty, Walter Walsh, David Blanchfield, Richie Hogan and Alan Murphy. Murphy in injury time come off the bench, but even in that semi-final, the strength and depth they have now compared to then, even again you have Walsh and Hogan, Killian Buckley's there, Billy Drennan is there, so the options that Derek Ling has seem to be more improved than last year even.
Yeah, well, look, Conor Fogarty's playing midfield again this year, revitalised, and what an interception against Clare early on when it looked like there was a massive goal on. But David Blanchfield's gone to 5, Paddy Deegan at 7, the 5 subs he brought on the last I was saying to you, Padraig Walsh scored a point, Cian Kenny scored a point, Killian Buckley comes on, Walter Walsh comes on, Richie Hogan gets 2 frees down in the corner. Like those 5 players in the space of the 44th minute to the 70th minute, that was a crucial spell where Clare were very much in the ascendancy, and those 5 players added massively to Kilkenny. So having those to come in, and then you've got Tom Phelan scored a point, Billy Ryan had a point, Hugh Lawler gets a point from full back. This Kilkenny team knows each other so well, and then Captain Fantastic in the corner, Owen Cody 1-5. I think this game is primed to be a spectacle.
Now there's one last bit, right? If Kilkenny win this, they're a team of destiny with the last minute goal in the Leinster final and the all-time greatest save ever in the semi-final. But if they lose, we'll be like, there was a kind of a fluky way for them to get through here, right?
No, I don't agree with that. I've been watching both teams since February. This is a long beat, This is like 7 months of hurling, and I'm going to be gutted that this day next week hurling will be dust. Intercounty hurling will be dust. The club season will be getting up and ready. But these 2 teams, there's no surprise that they are where they are right now. Kilkenny have learned so much throughout the season, and some of the performances this season were hand over your eyes stuff, and I was very, very critical of them during the league. But that semi-final performance is the best teams peak last, lads.
Is Hurler of the Year, to coin a phrase that's been used in the last week or two, a foregone conclusion at this stage, Sarah, with Galan, or is if Kilkenny win and Cody plays well, like, could that change, or has it already been decided? I guess
it won't be decided until after Sunday.
Yeah.
Those 70 minutes, and I don't think Galan would take the Hurler of the Year if Kilkenny won it. That's the type of player that he is. I think he will need to have a pitch perfect performance to deserve that, and no better men than Owen Cody or TJ Reid to steal the limelight there.
So you're predicting what exactly?
Limerick, but Kilkenny have a big chance.
Off that fence, sir, come on.
I do believe that's riding with the hair.
Okay, I'm going with Limerick. Okay, I'm going with Limerick.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Done.
And come here, sorry. What number's on the jersey? We'll ask Sue Ronan why it's not a lower number if you want us to a little bit later on.
Here, this is the squad. 18 in the squad. I got in by the skin of my teeth, but sure, I was from Cork. I was so far away. Yeah. Yeah, Sue will be like, who?
Column's Column's nodding his head there.
What's that? What does that mean?
Oh, he agrees. He's from Cork. It's like it was Roy Keane couldn't get in an Ireland team till he came up to Dublin. Fairview Park. They went as far as Fairview Park to watch him, and he was really good in a 3-0 defeat when he was underage, and that was the only time he got selected for Ireland.
I'll give Sue credit. I was playing in Bishopstown, and there was a lad named Darren Kelleher was down to watch a couple of games, and then you get the nod. But then you got the nod by post. I got a letter to be told I was getting an invitation to Dublin.
Lovely.
But that is class. Like I presume you still got the letter. Or somebody you like.
All of the letters. There was 3 or 4 of them over that season where you'd be literally waiting for the postman to be told you got selected. So it's a super memory to have. But she did break my heart after that. So
go on. Sure, she's coming on in 10 minutes.
Sure, she dropped me for the 2003 campaign. So there you go. You also get a letter to be told you're not selected.
Oh, right. That's not a great... You're like, the letter with the postmark from the FAI. What?
Yeah. There you go, lads. That was 2002.
So the end of your Wham scrapbook is a sad one with a sad smiley face.
It is, but I have a huge respect for Sue still. I think she's class. So
good
there
stuff.
You go.
Thanks a million. Enjoy the game, Sarah.
Thanks, lads.
Cheers.
Bye.
Sarah.